more interactive than the standard panels here, and that's partly, I think, based on the request also of the panelists. So perhaps we can start off with a show of hands. How many next generation members of a family business or a family office are in the audience? Good, we have about 7 people who will benefit a lot from this next panel. How many professional family office managers? Okay, about 10. So I think we're going to structure this panel into a few different pieces. We're going to share some of the experiences from, I think, the panelists here, specifically around the next generation in a family office context rather than a family business context. Although sometimes there is a very thin line, especially since the concept of family offices is relatively new in India. We're a little bit fortunate in that we have quite a few people, not only on the panel, but also in the audience, who kind of like represent the multiple generations of family office. So I think, Amit, you're second generation into a family office. We have the third generation sitting in the audience. We have ours, which is third generation. I'm the third generation in a family office structure where we manage 5 family offices. So I think perhaps we can start off with a little bit of the background in why did you set up your family office, Amit? So we understand the objective very clearly, and why is the next generation a little bit more important in getting them on board early into a family office environment?
Thanks, Sam. Well, ours is a traditional family where, started by grandfather in the 60s, and then father, uncles, they joined the business, and in the 70s we started the Patni Computers and the information technology and hardware business, and that's the history which all of you know. And I think as the businesses were doing well, they were cash cows. Some of them feeded the other businesses, and so in the 80s, general trend was which business was doing well used to feed another business idea. And in the 90s, when the generations were, the second and third generations were coming up, the family decided that it's time we professionalize and separate. So as early as 2000, when we set up the family office, where we said that let the operating businesses be separate, and whatever dividends and income which is generated, which is distributed to the family members, be managed separately by a separate family office. So we set up a professional team, and we started managing the wealth of the family in a different way than the treasury operations of the various businesses. And that's how the family office came up, where we said even the back office be done by the family office, which would be preparing the tax, preparing the liquidity needs of the family members, the education expenses and things like that. All that should be managed separately from the family office corpus, and de-link it from the operating companies. So that was the first step which we took, and I think it worked well. Then came, when the other generation started coming up, and one of the flagship companies of ours started creating value, and it got a private equity investor, and then it went to IPO. At that point, we decided that it's better that we have a professional management in the flagship company, because it's always better to create value rather than getting so many family members joining the business and trying to destroy the value, as I may say. And then we created a concept that the next gen should be given to be told what they want to do in life, and what do they want to do with the corpus which is created in the family office. And that's what is lacking today in many families, where especially families which are coming new into liquidity because they have done well, there's a sale of shares, there's a liquidity event, and suddenly there's a pool of capital which is in the personal hands of the family members. And how do we prepare the next gen? And that is what our panel wants to talk today, that what do we do? How does the family office help the next gen to decide what they want to do? Who will be part of the operating business, and who will be creating new businesses out of the family office corpus? Do the family members get involved in running a family office? How many of them get involved? And how do they create capital preservation as well, create the wealth? So these are the issues which we are now inculcated in our family office, and that's what I think is what needs to be talk to family offices, that apart from the investment professionals and the investment decisions, there is the other part of creating the plan for the next gen.
Thanks a lot. So clearly you're one of the most sophisticated families out there. You went through, I'm assuming, a family council. You have investment committees all structured apart way back in 2000 or before. I'm assuming that was a prerequisite before the family office.
That's right. So my father, we created this where they had the assets which were clearly divided amongst the family members, and then we had the professional manager who would present us different professional different investment portfolios, and depending on the age of the individual, we used to have individual portfolios. So when it was the children who were under 18, they had a view of creating and preserving the capital. And then there was more risk assets which were given to the middle-age generation. We also created a methodology where if any individual wanted to do a new business, it would draw capital from his own account, but he could have the other individual family members invest into that business. So there was, that kind of presentation made to the various family members.
I would like to build on this conversation, and perhaps Vivek, your experience has been helping family businesses structure these systems outside a standard family business environment into family councils, into separating, I guess, ownership and management a little bit, and then the family interests into this ballpark. Be interesting to hear your views, what you see as how the next generation perhaps are getting involved in some of those structures, and what you have introduced in your experience with PwC.
You see, typically in India, you see mainly families running businesses. And let's understand that's a very important segment globally. PwC has done a survey on family businesses and find that a very substantial part of any country's GDP, 70 to 80% of it comes from family businesses. And so they form a very critical part of global business. Now, when families grow, when next gens come, there are 4 Ds which are very critical to it. And that is death, dispute, disability, and divorce. You need to structure for all these for next generation and succession. And for that, we help businesses, family businesses, create what we call family offices, family business councils, so that there's an operating side of the business and then there is an investment side of the business. Both are important. And for next gen, as you rightly pointed out, I think we can't kill the entrepreneurial talent of youngsters, and therefore they need to be given an investment pool to create new businesses. Now, all this gets done, you've got tax issues related to it, which means how do you structure it right, whether you put it into trust, discretionary trust. You look at the possibility of a future inheritance tax coming up, so you need to structure for that. You need to structure for disputes. You need to structure to make sure that the ownership and control becomes in some sense vested together, so that that does not dissipate over next generations, where control could be lost because one family member sold out. or two family members sold out to keep the control together, but the economic benefits going to the various individual families and then getting managed together. How to structure all this is what we do, and dispute resolution mechanism needs to be built in, and this gets done by family protocols. The family protocols decide how investment decisions will be taken, how new business decisions will be taken, how investment into those new businesses will be done, and if there is a dispute, how it will be resolved. So this entire gamut gets planned out and the process is laid out.
Okay, so just building on that, so that's the original structure that you put in place that kind of like sets the framework for a family office to come into existence. And clearly, Narayan, when we were talking outside, one of the rare instances of, I guess, the transition from a family office moving from standard investment management, wealth preservation, reporting, which is a standard functional activity of most family offices, that needs to evolve a little bit. And this was a piece that I think, especially as we start thinking of the next generation, what is the future of family offices past that primary generation of activity that takes place in perhaps getting structure to something that didn't have it?
Well, one of the key role about a family office is it acts as a buffer as well as an enabler. In the initial stages, like you said, it effectively is more of like a business mechanism in order to address wealth, reporting, all of those kind of considerations. But my view is that over a period of time, it needs to imbue itself with the kind of family values, the philosophies, etc., so that the way the family office operates is it becomes the holder of that values and the philosophies for future perpetuation of the family and its growth. Like Vivek said, one of the key things about a family or a business family is its ability to take risk, its entrepreneurship. Any family office needs to recognize that and take into account that particular aspect and not merely look at managing wealth but creating new possibilities and new wealth. That is one value which I believe needs to be imbued in many of these circumstances. I also believe that by family members becoming more active and participative in a family office, the ability to transition the family office from a mere business mechanism to a much more valued institution of the family can be made possible. By bringing into the family office the younger generation and getting them equipped with the kind of possibilities which exist insofar as risk-taking, entrepreneurship, and leveraging the family wealth, and not merely the financial wealth, but also the intangible, the brand which goes with the family, is also extremely important to bring about. And therefore, over a period of time, I see family offices emerging into really strong institutions which are not mere wealth managers or accounting or reporting businesses, but much more than what they are.
So, I mean, one of the things that we've heard a lot, and we clearly have a number of professional managers in the audience, is the split between a professional manager with an investment background historically versus having a family member that perhaps has a different series of experiences. So it would be interesting to perhaps hear some of the others. Vivek, your view, when you originally structure your family offices, how do you balance a combination of professionals outside in a family office structure versus members of the family?
See, what you're referring to is investment management, right? So in the family office, definitely the family is fully involved, in our structures at least. They can in turn hire professionals, internally or externally, for managing that wealth. But the decision making remains with the family.
At a fixed investment committee level?
At the investment committee level, yes. But the management of those investments, I suppose, people are hired or it's let out.
So is that how?
It's not, there's no prescriptive situation. It depends upon the size of that family office, size of the investment pie, and how that family, how involved is that family in managing businesses, and would therefore like somebody else to look after the investment part. But invariably, the family is definitely involved in the decision making in the family office?
I mean, typically in Gen 1 operating family office life cycle, when we look at it rather than the Gen 1 business, in Gen 1 FO, you have a time constraint with most of the founding members of the family investment committee, right? The business owners who are contributing have other interests, other activities, managing their enterprises. So I guess that naturally leads into professional participants into the ecosystem. Amit, is that an experience you faced, and do you fully subscribe to having professionals managing a family office?
Yeah, I think we should also here talk that there is one is your internal family office, which we have because the size of corpus which we have justifies to have that. But there is also the need to have professional family office services, like how we have Waterfield and other boutique advisory companies, which should understand what is the need for a family who's the medium family who cannot afford to have a family office services. That does not mean that you take the investment decision. The investment decision, whether it is your internal family office or independent family office services, is taken by the investor himself or the family member himself. I think in our case, in an internal family office like ours and many others, large families who have their own family office, the way it works is you have a professional manager who is given a mandate that we want this kind of return, this is kind of the risk. Depending on the number of family members, we have trusts which have a long-term horizon. You have, wealth which is in the name of ladies which you want to protect. Which family member is going to take what risk? And depending on the number of family members, the professional manager has to prepare a mandate and an investment portfolio for each of these baskets. And giving a portfolio allocation. And this is presented now in a larger family office, it is presented to the various, there's a family meeting every quarter where you present this to all the family members to let them know this is how you want to invest. The inputs are taken, and once the approval is given, then the execution is done by the professional manager. So the decision on which mutual fund to buy and which fund manager to choose, that by and large is taken by the professional manager. Of course, you have one of the family members who oversees, that we are choosing the right fund manager and things like that. But the execution part is then done by the fund manager or the professional manager, where then his mandate is to get the X return and preserve the wealth and take the right investment decision in terms of choosing the right managers and the right distributor and things like that. So this is by and large how it works, both in an internal family office as well as a professional family office setup.
So if we kind of like take a leaf into going deeper into the next generation aspects, the sense of entitlement is very standard in most families. With new generations coming on, they say shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves, and one of the biggest risks is first generation to make it, the second generation is still preserving it, and the third one perhaps hasn't learned the value-based system to either protect it and recreate the next cycle of wealth. Perhaps we can talk about some of the programs, Narayan, that you've seen that have been successful in building values where a family office is involved rather than just a family business.
One of the biggest learnings I had was in respect of my own family, which at some point in time disintegrated in terms of its entire thing, fragmented completely. Very clearly, to sort of put a soul into this whole process is extremely important, in the sense that in order to make sure that the shirt sleeve to shirt sleeves kind of situation doesn't arise, the right values need to be imbued very early in the process rather than let people believe that there is an entitlement which is going to happen and they will step into the shoes of whoever had built the business or whoever was managing the business. In order to do that, what the process which in some of the situations I follow is that obviously there is a family constitution which articulates the entire set of values, vision, the investment philosophies, the do's and don'ts. It also captures the traditions of the family in many respects, including any religious sentiment which needs to go in. It effectively is a kind of a narrative which, younger generations are right at the beginning asked to sort of go through, understand, and then there is a process whereby they are also trained or in some ways evaluated as well to see what needs to be done insofar as they are concerned to go forth and become what they want to be. Aspirations are very high. They need to understand that aspirations need to also be backed by competencies and capabilities. And if some of those initial thoughts are put into their mind, then their willingness to work and create what needs to be created going into the future is much greater than if nothing is done, they are assumed to sort of grow and become what they believe they will be or what their parents expect them to be. And as a result, the kind of issues, the partitions and other things which happen become very significant. So the process needs to be right from capturing or addressing the family elements through some kind of a documentation, putting all the family members through that process of understanding it, accepting it, working towards it, and then the younger generation, as they come through the process, they also get put through these kind of activities. There is a quarterly meeting, annual meeting, everybody coming together. Many of those kind of considerations are very important to put in place. And finally, I would also say that the elders in the family need to play a role whereby they look beyond themselves and look at the family and its future, and therefore the younger generation which follows accept that that is the way they ought to also look at it. It's not merely a division of assets or division of roles in the family, but also preservation of the family and its values going into the future and creating a brand out of it.
So one of the things that the Atlas family we've been able to do, and it was, a learning that we learned expensively, as we call it, was we needed a program to allow our next generation, including myself, to kind of go and learn elsewhere from a very early age. So we send from the ages of 9 to 18 our kids to different parts of the world. We partner with other families, whether in the wine making business or manufacturing in China, and send our kids for a short induction. So it's a program based approach, and I think it'd be great to hear what perhaps you have tried with your family, Amit, and maybe we can also ask at that point your daughter's experience in how she got introduced to the family office and some of its color. So did you have a program that was structured for you from a very early age to a family office structure?
No, not really, because I was at the time where firstly there's a lot of age difference because my brothers and cousins are younger to me. So I was in this confused place where you have younger siblings and you start off early and then you have your father, uncle. So I had to struggle my way through to learn ropes, and as the wealth increased, how do you structure businesses and how do you look for new businesses, and it was quite a struggle. But now, of course, things have been structured in the family office where things are more clearer, and we have a proper procedure where we decide the allocation to new businesses and aspirations of the next gen. So
I think for us, one of the best experiences we've seen is where I got mentored by a very senior person who ran their own family office outside our family office ecosystem. And that was priceless because for us, we were going through transitions. So having external mentors, whether it's professional or whether it's somebody from another family office who is a family business enterprise owner, I mean in a past gen, has also been helpful. But I think our time is up, so I want to first thank the panelists. I think they've done a great job on, I think, drawing very different experiences to perhaps be helpful to you. And VC Circle for, I think, having the guts to do something that has been coming a long time, which is structuring a family office discussion so that some of these things that are in the amorphous world of mystique and excitement into perhaps a little bit more structure. So thank you, Sahad and team. I think thanks a lot, guys. So perhaps a round of applause for good co-panelists.